When we look at countries' abilities to deal with second waves, would you say that track and trace is the ability to do effective and advanced and timely track and trace is the thing that sets apart success and failure? Is that the secret?
I would say that is one of the major ingredients of success. I think also being sensible about perhaps mask wearing or social distancing is also important, especially once the horse has left the barn.
What do you think the U.S. needs to do in order to get its act together? I mean, it seems simply out of control when compared to what we're seeing here in Germany or really across continental Europe.
I think it is out of control. I mean, the U.S. is a very, very large place. There are lots of pockets. So there's rural areas. I think what happened was that the first wave began. We saw that all over in the major metropolitan areas, such as Seattle and New York. But it was already incubating and basically out of control in rural areas, but people just didn't know about it. So what you're seeing now is not the second wave. What you're seeing is the first wave, which is just continuing to roll over the country. It's asynchronous now. So some places have got it under control, others have not. So we're still, as Fauci said, knee deep in the first wave in the U.S. And really, they got to get the testing under control. But it's my understanding that testing is now has been struggling a lot because people are running out of reagents. They're not able to offer tests to everybody who wants them. There's long queues. I think the testing is key, but we're hitting now this supply chain bottleneck.
Okay, so testing is very much part of it. What about the rate at which we're seeing younger people being infected? Give us your insights into how much that changes the conversation around COVID-19.
I think there's been an absolute explosion of young people infected in the United States. It's quite frightening. I think that kids probably think they're invincible. Of course, it's been widely publicized that it's mostly older people who succumb to COVID-19. But if you look at large numbers of people infected, you're going to get quite a few young people affected as well. I mean, 1 in 5 people who go to hospital are between the ages of 20 and 40. So really, the message needs to get out that young people do need to take care, not just for themselves, but of course for all their contacts who are more vulnerable.
Is it a more difficult problem in general for the U.S., Jennifer, because of, there's a high rate and climbing, I believe, of diabetes in the U.S. We all know about the massive obesity problem in the U.S. Do Americans just have more health problems that put them into a more problematic situation if they contract the virus?
I would say so. I mean, you have a very large elderly population in the U.S. You also have a lot of people with comorbidities that are associated with obesity, for example, diabetes. This is known to be a risk factor for having a more severe COVID outcome. So yes, indeed, you do need to look at the general health of your population.
What do you think, Anthony Fauci? What's the message we should take from Anthony Fauci's comments about any resilience given by a vaccine will be finite? Any protection given will be finite. What should we read into that kind of assumption?
Well, it's known that coronaviruses in general are not terribly good at eliciting immune response or antibodies. So it's possible that we will get a vaccine that's seasonal. People will have to take it every year. Protection will not be long-lived. You also have to look at a very significant portion of people who don't believe in vaccination, and you need to have a sort of the critical mass of vaccination to get herd immunity. So if you've got people turning away from vaccines because of the anti-vax movement, that's also not good news. So it's sort of a combination of the vaccine may not be terribly effective and people may not want to take it.
So it won't last long, you're saying. If I take a vaccine, it'll be like the flu vaccine is now, Jennifer, where it only is viable for maybe one season, but also the chances of me getting the flu are still pretty good. I mean, I have taken the flu vaccine every year for almost a decade now, and I'm sure that 3 or 4 times I've ended up with it anyway.
But I have to stress, we don't know for sure what the vaccine is going to do. We don't know how effective it's going to be. Actually, we don't even know if it will be effective at all. There are diseases out there that we've been trying for decades to vaccinate against and have failed. So yes, I'm hopeful that it will work, but most experts think it probably won't be a shot for life. It will be, a periodic booster required. And yes, I've had the flu shot and gotten a terrible case of the flu. So vaccines aren't perfect, but they are certainly really important if you put them together with other measures like track and trace and social distancing.